Episode 1, Kaiseki, written by Brian Fuller and Steve Lightfoot, directed by Tim Hunter. Welcome to Season 2 of Fate and Circumstance, a Hannibal fan podcast, where I, a dedicated Fannibal, indoctrinate to Hannibal virgins. I am your host, Felix Fanfaron Fern, and these are my co-hosts.
Hello, I'm Melisa Suzan, and I'm being indoctrinated.
Damn right.
Hi, I'm Shaira Bambi. Yay, we're back for Season 2, baby! Hello!
Hell yeah.
How'd you do that? Who is... What?
What?
Podcast?
What?
What's that?
I don't know anymore.
Don't
It's
anymore
been
yet.
so long.
My poor little brain. It's fine. We'll get into it. It's like riding a bicycle. I can't ride a bicycle.
Oh, I can.
That's fine then. You'll be fine.
But I'm maybe not good at riding a bicycle. Maybe I fall down a lot.
That's definitely me in podcasting. So I'm going to start out with giving a couple of little shout outs. And I might make this a regular thing, potentially, because I follow a lot of Hannibal fan creators. And I feel like it might be nice to mention them if I were to do so. It's a lot of like fan artists and stuff that I follow. So first of all, I wanted to give a quick little shout out to the Folie de Discord server, which is a Discord server specifically for Fannibal creators. So artists and writers, but people who do things like podfics and their own podcast and all sorts of stuff. Everyone in there is incredibly lovely. I've only been in the server for a couple of days and everyone is just incredibly nice and supportive. So I wanted to mention them. And secondly, I wanted to mention the Feast is Life podcast, who has kind of become our podcast friends.
Yeah! Whoop, whoop, whoop.
So the Feast is Life is hosted by DB Mars and Dream, who are two lovely ladies from the US. And their podcast is very different to ours. Instead of doing episode analysis, they tend to do deep dives on particular subjects. So an episode might focus in on a particular thing from a particular episode, but they also do episodes on things like the panels that have been happening, where they'll talk about all the different questions that like Hugh and Mads have given to stuff like that. But also, they're just incredibly nice. DB is someone who has been very enthusiastic and supportive of my terrible deranged fanfiction, which is really nice. And also writes a lot of her own fanfiction. We are currently collaborating on an incredibly intensive podfic of an entire retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula as a Hannibal AU, which is very fun, and I'm going to kill myself doing it. So,
Your voice.
hell yeah, sure, but yeah, me podcasting and recording every day is gonna destroy me, but that's fine. So, with that out of the way, I'm gonna ask you what I at least try and remember to ask you every week, which is, what did you think of the episode?
Stop showing us throats. No, but otherwise, it was a pretty cool episode. The beginning, oh my fucking god, the beginning, so cool. The beginning's so cool, but it doesn't keep up that pace for the rest of the episode, and I understand why, but it just it started getting my heart racing, and then it slowed me down really quickly, and
it was intense.
It was intense, but I would like it to have a bit more of a calm down instead of just going intense, calm down quickly. Could have gone led on to a really a good procedural or something that's equally intense, but I get it. It's setting up the story for season 2.
Yeah, the procedural kind of takes a sort of back on this.
Backseat, yeah.
Just needed a deep breath, to be honest. It's so much going on. I don't know. I liked it. They were like, "We're fucking meaning business today, boys." It's very frustrating in terms of just the fact of watching Will in this poor place, this poor boy that's been wrongly convicted, and he's like, "I know what's happening," and it's quite interesting how. Well, I mean, I say interesting. He's now being convicted as as a murderer, so now they're not going to believe what he said. But like, it's just so funny how everything that he ever said about previous cases and stuff, or just anything in general, they really took him for his word and really believed it. And we're just like, well, Will thinks this, so, you know, we're going to run with that, and that makes sense, and all of this. And now he's really, like, so on the money, as much as he has been this whole time. And they're all like, no, we don't believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad that no one.
Infuriating.
No
But
one's on his
hopefully,
side.
yeah, hopefully he gets his comeuppance, I hope.
We'll see.
Oh, dear.
So yeah, let's talk about the opening a bit. As you mentioned, it's quite intense. So the show opens with a very dramatic and unexpected fight between Hannibal and Jack. So do you have any guesses to what might have led up to that fight in Hannibal's kitchen?
I reckon that Jack finds out the truth of some sort. It does feel a bit like, sort of, the thing is, the way that it's laid out is kind of like Jack's gone there on his own accord. I think maybe he's overcome with emotions rather than it being like an official investigation thing, because he's by himself.
Interesting.
Seems like it's probably late in the evening and he's just gone up to him and is just like, oh, fuck you. Like, I think something has been found out, and the minute that he's found out, he's just been overcome with emotions. Because I think he is protective over Will in a sort of like almost paternal way a bit. And he just kind of was like, you fucking prick. And then just literally like went to go and prick him with a knife.
It pissed me off though. I'm like, come on, you idiot! Why are you going after someone you suspect? Obviously, we don't know anything. Anything could have happened. And Hannibal could have killed Jack's wife, and that's why he's angry. But if there could be anything, but still annoys me. Like, you're a police officer, you're going after a man. Why are you going on your own? Like
Overcome with emotions, man.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a reason. Something I found very interesting when we all watched this episode together for the first time is, like, obviously through season 1, there was a lot of discussion and conflict about how much we like and dislike Hannibal. But, like, even in the last episode of season 1, I know that, Shaira, you still had, like, some affection for Hannibal. But when this episode started, though, both of you immediately were just like, go Jack, which was very funny. You did not give a fuck about Hannibal, which I thought was kind of great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's a killer. I like people who bring justice.
Yes.
Which is fair. It'll be interesting to see how you feel when it actually happens, I guess, and if anything will have changed by that point or not. That'll be fun to see, I think, to see if you still have the exact same feelings or not.
Maybe.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm gonna unfortunately info dump at you a bit, because a lot of the I'm ready to kink shame already. A lot of the information I have about this episode is from right at the start. So at the beginning, the soundtrack at the beginning of this episode, before it kicks into the music during the fight scene, it starts off with some subtle sounds and a slow rhythmic sound that continues whilst they're analyzing each other. And it's supposed to represent Hannibal's heartbeat, because that beating sound never speeds up. And it's meant to represent the fact that Hannibal has the ability to maintain a steady pulse even under duress.
Interesting.
That is very much part of his identity as a killer, is he always remains calm, and it's creepy.
Really cool.
Then, of course, after the fight, we go into the first dish of the episode, and this episode has several dishes, 2 main ones, and then the nightmare thing that Will experiences. So, the name of this episode is Kaiseki, and Kaiseki is also mentioned as what Hannibal is serving, or rather the concept of Kaiseki. I apologise both to Shaira and Melisa, who are probably also both weebs, and may know some of the information that I'm going to explain, but I'm going to explain it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it. I probably don't know.
You'd not have to call me out like that.
I'm a nerd about food, so I got to research a bunch of this, but it's a combination of information I know and information I learn, which is fun. So Kaiseki is an old Japanese culinary tradition. It's basically a multi-course thing. It's a little bit similar to haute cuisine in that it's lots of little meals. So little dainty things that's meant to mix like colour and texture and taste and look as nice as it eats. But they tend to have like a set of core dishes that they kind of always use. So normally there'll be an appetizer, sashimi, a simmered dish, a grilled dish, and a steamed dish. But there are at least 15 possible courses that they could serve. So it could be a few, or it could be an absolute shit ton, depending on where you're going and how expensive the meal is. I know some people mention that kaiseki is like this very expensive dining experience, but it's also the kind of food that you would normally get if you stay in a ryokan, which is like a traditional Japanese inn with communal baths.
It's not meant to be that expensive.
No, as I say, it depends. There's different types of kaiseki. There's the going to a renowned restaurant with a famous chef kaiseki, and then there's kind of more traditional, like going to a ryokan, where that's the set menu you will normally get is lots of little dishes, and that's also kaiseki.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of the fancy ones just of, I don't know, creators that I know, like going to like a expensive restaurant and they get like so many little courses, and they're there personally with the chef, so it's like a crazy experience. Okay, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, it comes with different styles, because technically one form of kaiseki that you'll both probably know is a bento box. That's what would be considered casual kaiseki, because that's also a lot of little dishes arranged. That's also a type of kaiseki.
Nice.
So Kaiseki is the name of the episode, and every episode in this series is a name of a dish you would get for Kaiseki. So as we go through each episode, I'll explain what the episode title is and what it means.
I kind of like that, because we did in this episode. It now I understand why it feels so disjointed, because it did feel a little bit disjointed and kind of like biddy. It switched so often to different scenes. So yeah,
It's a very different approach, because we're no longer doing kind of the killer of the week procedural format, because this killer has not been resolved in one episode. It's still going, which is not what we're used to. So the dish that Hannibal serves as part of his kaiseki is mukosuke, which is served with normal kaiseki, but also with cha kaiseki, which is the type of kaiseki you get with a tea ceremony. So that's another kind. Mukosuke means set to the far right side. So at a tea ceremony, when they do the kaiseki, it would literally be on the right-hand side of the guest at the table. And it's usually seasonal sashimi, not necessarily, but that's normally what the main component is. And of course, that's how Hannibal serves it as well. So his particular mukosuke is seasonal sashimi, sea urchin, water clam, and squid. His sashimi is described as flounder in the episode, and as I think you both picked up on, it is not fish. So both Janice Boone's blog and also the episode commentary track confirms that Brian Fuller's concept is that it's human meat that has been bleached to look pale so that it looks like fish, which in reality I think would be very difficult to do, but things like chicken is often bleached so that it looks more like chicken breast if it's not chicken breast, because people, I don't know why, but especially in the West, people think that chicken breast is the best part of the chicken and it should look all pale and pretty, when it's like, fuck off, chicken thigh's better.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah.
Hell yeah, team chicken thigh.
Chicken thighs are good.
Very weird Western association we have with chicken having to be a certain way. It's very weird.
And a lot of other things just being bleached a lighter colour, like bread and rice and stuff like that. I think it's just a weird kind of Western / American picture perfect kind of thing that the West wants.
Use every part of your meat, please.
Why drain things out, make them bland instead of using all the interesting parts of stuff you're eating? Very weird. Sea urchin is something we always talk about when we've watched this episode.
Yes.
So sea urchin or uni is usually prepared live. When they die, the spines fall off, and it's not as cool. Like normally when you prepare it, you have like these big fucking clippers, and you have to like crack into it. But they couldn't have it live for the show. So Janice Poon arranged for them to be buried in salt, which would then preserve them. Not quite curing, but almost like curing the outside of the shell. But even though the spines stayed on, they discolored. So the ones in the show have actually been spray painted red to look more alive. And then they put the uni inside the preserved shell instead of it being a live one, which is
very
cool.
clever the way that they really like think this out.
They look really good in the episode.
Yeah, Janice Poon is really cool. If you're listening to this, Janice Poon, you're cool.
She is a genius, and I love her. And anyone interested in stuff should read her blog. She has a blog for every episode, and they're all super interesting.
Heck yeah. I am looking forward to getting the cookbook as soon as
so good.
Yeah.
As soon as we finished season 3, and no more spoilers.
Yes, everyone should get the cookbook. It's wonderful. I have one final info dump, which is not an info dump. It's just a little thing to mention that Hannibal mentions his aunt during this meal, his aunt Murasaki, during the dinner, which is just another little glimpse into his past. Because we still don't know much about him. We know he went to boarding school in Paris and that he lost his parents at a young age. After that, he lived with his aunt Murasaki and uncle Robertus. So, again, just a little slither of Hannibal lore that they've inserted into there. So, after that scene, we get to see how Will is doing, kind of. And this is one of my classic, you might not have anything to say about this question, and that's fine. Which is Swiggity Swag, it's the return of the Nightmare Stag. The stag is back, but so is the stag man, showing that they now coexist in Will's mind. Any thoughts on what they might represent for him now?
I was really thinking about this before we started and before we did our little rewatch, and I was racking my mind a little bit because I was thinking that maybe when it's in its sort of purer form and not the terrifying man, I think maybe it's just sort of like a sense of, because of his sort of brain issues happening and all the turmoil he's in, I feel like maybe the stag as the stag is maybe sort of his like intuition and his like goodness. I don't know how to explain, maybe like his rational thinking, sort of like trying to differentiate from his rational thinking and his irrational thinking that isn't him, and that's why it comes up in this horrible human stag weirdness form, because it's like trying to, maybe his own subconscious trying to indicate to him like, this isn't real, this isn't like, this is the bad thing, this is the evil side. But although it does, you know, we do have the imagery of that being Hannibal to him, especially when he's in the cell and there's like one step of the stag's foot Hannibal. So then I was like, oh, maybe it's the different sides to Hannibal of like when he's being, when you think he's being like nice and genuine or whatever, and then Hannibal's actions quite literally being the twisted man stag version. I just sort of like really throwing around these weird ideas in my head. I'm like, is it the good and bad in Hannibal, or is it like the good and bad in Will's sort of thinking and his what's it called, perspective in a way? I don't know.
Interesting you mentioned that, because this is exactly what I had similar thought on. Hannibal has been Will's paddle for so long, and I think that part of him is still there. The Hannibal that grounds Will and gets him on almost the right path, and I think that is what the stag itself represents, and the stag man represents Hannibal as Will now sees him as, or has discovered him to be some malevolent force that is pushing him in deeper into a sense of, not, I don't want to use the word crazy, in the sense of feeling like he's drowning, whereas the old stag was something that Will could be like, this thing's a good thing, it's helping me, it guides me, it's my paddle while I'm being consumed by all of these negative thoughts and negative experiences that Jack is putting me through, or doing the kind of the kill, the death scenes work that he does. So yeah, that's what my thought was between the two imageries of the stag man and the stag.
And that's both really interesting. Yeah, when I was going through the script, I found a little bit of text interesting when it describes when he's fishing and first sees the stag. It says, Will casts a new line and waits. On the bank of the river, the black stag slowly approaches. Will stops, remaining still as to not spook the beast. The black stag suddenly startles and bolts. And that's incredibly different to the last episode of season 1 where he's literally hunting it.
Yeah.
So he's gone from hunting it to trying to be quite kind of nice and apprehensive with it, which I found very interesting. I think where my brain has finally landed, because this show will never fucking tell us, is I think that the Nightmare Stag, triggered by Cassie Boyle's copycat corpse, represents the darkness that is innate in Will, but is teased out by Hannibal, but would be there regardless of Hannibal. It just takes on the form it does because of what happened. So the darkness in him now has a shape, whereas the stag man is Hannibal. So yeah, I see the Nightmare Stag as the dark part of Will, and the stag man as the bad part of Will's subconscious that is becoming Hannibal's voice. He mentions this episode that the voice in his head now sounds like Hannibal. So I think it's kind of the bad influence on the darkness instead of the darkness itself just doing its own thing.
That is very interesting. Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't want to believe that there was a dark side to Will, and that's why I avoided that kind of conclusion. But anyway,
I mean, that's fair. You can definitely, it's definitely justified to argue that. I would say that his self-confessed enjoyment in killing Hobbs and things like keeping Abigail's secret, knowing that she'd killed someone, suggests that Will is not all good. And that doesn't mean he's a bad person, because everyone is nuanced. In my personal opinion, Will has a darkness, but it's not necessarily what Hannibal thinks it is, or what Hannibal wants it to be.
Okay.
Which is why the Stagman's a piece of shit.
Sorry, Will. I'm sorry, Hannibal. Will not join your cannibal club. Go recruit other people.
Hannibal family.
Cannibal family.
Hashtag Hannibal family.
Tag us.
So, Alana is insisting that Will's care under Jack be investigated, and the FBI is not happy about that. Do you think that Alana was right to stand her ground on that, and do you think this will lead to any repercussions?
Yeah, because she's a boss-ass babe.
Exactly. Boss-ass babe.
But I don't think it will lead to any repercussions because she's just a girl to the FBI. So, given the times that it is, they will be like, meh.
And you can kind of see the corruptness of the FBI there, of the leader going, you wounded someone, you have to take this back, otherwise it's gonna screw us up. It's like, oof, instead of taking it seriously. And maybe the concerns are correct, maybe the person who audits that, it does inevitably come in and almost stab the dead in their, I forgot what they specifically say, but
wounding and bayoneting.
Wounding and bayoneting the already injured. But yeah, it seems a bit like, oh, we don't want to deal with this. Please take this back.
I think the fact that they were already asking her to sort of take back her report, I reckon they won't, the fact that she says no, they will sort of cheat the report a little bit and kind of be like, oh yeah, we did it, but it's been denied. They'll try and be like, oh, nothing's come from it. I think they won't really take it seriously and they won't really escalate it very far at all. I think they'll do what they need to, like the bare minimum of it, and just be like, oh, well, yeah, nothing's come from it, so here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And I agree with both of you on both points. I think Alana is completely right. I think Alana is being great in being stubborn and not caving. And Katie Prunell, the FBI lady, is a dick.
Yep.
She's a prune.
Yeah, no, I think she's a big sign that the FBI, at least the higher ups above Jack, are not to be trusted.
If they did care or they went through with it properly, then they would show fault in their system, and they would be the ones massively in trouble at the end of the day, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's exactly it. The reason they're being so stubborn is because they know they fucked up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mention only a tiny bit about the trying to get Will's memories back with Alana bit, unless anyone wants to say anything about it, in which case you're very free.
And hot. Especially
Shaira found it hot, Melissa found it gross.
Yeah, I found Alana.
I get the sentiment of the sexiness and everything, but just her initial appearance with the Sims 3 hair was just a bit. Oh,
yeah, it did feel a bit weird. I understand that.
I think it's cool. I remember actually when we did the first watch, I think Melissa, you said like we're a little bit puzzled about why she looked that way. And I don't know is the answer, but what I mentioned, which I just think is a cool nod back, is Hannibal saying in the first series that he sees Will's madness and wants to contain it like an oil spill.
Yeah.
So now I think, and like with the Stag Man as well, everything like takes on a lot of like black and tar and ink and stuff, and that's quite cool.
Yeah,
I think that's just like a consistent visual thing. So during that scene, we see what Janice Poon refers to as the hallucidinner, which I love. I don't have much to say about that, except I wanted to mention something she put in her blog, because I found it very funny.
Hallucidinner is a great way to describe it.
It's a really good term. The meat in that scene is kept looking juicy with glycerin. The leaves and flowers are sprayed with water to look dewy, and they had to spray the octopus with Febreze.
Oh gosh.
To spray what with Febreze?
The octopus.
I see. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And I wanted to mention one little thing about that, because we watched it twice and neither of you mentioned it, so I wanted to mention it, which is that Alana says, imagine yourself in a safe and relaxing place. And where does Will go?
Straight to Hannibal's
dining room.
Yep. Hannibal is the paddling.
Yeah, despite everything terrible that's happened, that's still what his brain associates with the idea of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really interesting.
Really interesting, also very sad, because
it is sad, yeah.
He trusted you so much.
Yeah, but I think part of his brain is still holding on to the Hannibal he believed to be his friend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he says we're not friends.
Yeah, that's kind of the effect of master manipulator, narcissist, and all those words.
Yeah, he's rooted in Will's brain.
Mm-hmm.
I giggled there because my brain just went super weird and went like master masturbator. I was like, what? Why, Shaira? Sorry, I'm not sure why I mentioned.
We haven't reached that part of the series yet.
Pardon?
Yeah.
I'd say nothing.
What?
No, there is no masturbation in Hannibal. Just
okay.
Unfortunately, there is sexy time. Anyway, no spoilers. On to my next talking point, which is Bedelia. Because what the fuck? Bedelia continues to be an enigma. She clearly knows that Hannibal's relationship with Will is unhealthy, and that Hannibal is playing with fire by staying so close to the FBI. So why do you think he continues to see her when he seems to just disregard her advice?
I think that it's just a sense of someone to talk to, maybe. I think maybe also he's also just doing I think he's doing sort of like what's it called? Damage control. I think he's kind of making sure he knows if when he does something or doesn't do something, that what she's going to say is going to cover for him for some reason. Just a way that conversation happened and the way he threatened her, where she was like, "Oh, either Will or someone doesn't know what you're capable of," and he said, "Neither do you," and her face just sort of said so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's just sort of, damage control, sort of making sure that he knows her place and she knows her place in a way.
Yeah.
It's showing a little bit more the kind of dynamic between them. I did think that maybe it was like they had something on each other and whatever it is can't come out, and that's why they both have some sort of reliance on each other. But I'm thinking now more Hannibal, because it's Hannibal, probably knows something about whatever happened to Bedelia, and it's clearly something that maybe shouldn't have happened, or Bedelia did something wrong, or it's not the whole entire truth, and Hannibal's clearly manipulating her in some kind of way to make sure that she's useful to him. I don't know. That's my initial thing, talking for 5 minutes. My initial perspective.
That's what this is all about.
No, I completely agree with you. There's really nothing I can probably add to that. Like, I think metaphorically, Hannibal has Bedelia's balls in a vice, and so like either she's killed someone, like she wasn't meant to kill a patient, and that's that's something that shouldn't come to light, and because I don't think it's ever mentioned by Jack or the FBI, and stuff like that. So there's just something on her, and I'm loathed again to mention like the Hannibal cannibal family, but I don't think she is exactly a consensual party to the Hannibal cannibal family. But clearly Hannibal is, forcing that upon her.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think after kind of hearing those points, I think there is some kind of suggestion that he does get something out of talking to her, even if he disregards what she actually has to say, that he does kind of enjoy having someone to talk to. And I think it does kind of suggest he is basically using her for that, which is interesting to have, like, that weird of a confidant, I suppose. Someone that you've got in some kind of weird place of control. Yeah. Bedelia's weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one final little info dump before we move on to the slightly more like subtle but meaty questions.
Meaty?
The meat of the episode, in my opinion. Which was just there is another dish in this episode. Before I mention the dish, I'll mention what we spoke about when we rewatched the episode, is that this episode marks the censorship of Leda and the Swan.
Yeah.
Because Chilton is looking directly at it and it's straight clearly in frame, and the swan's head is missing and the lady's under area is all censored, and it looks a bit bizarre now. Thanks, NBC. But the dish that Chilton and Hannibal have is salted and ash-baked celeriac with foraged samphire, or samphire as Hannibal pronounces it. In Janice Poon's blog, she said, "I'm just going to read this outright because I couldn't add anything to it. She just describes it and it makes sense, so I'm just going to read what she wrote." Which is, "It's a dish made famous at Brett Graham's Michelin-starred restaurant, the Ledbury. His celery root is baked in a shell of browned salt and flour dough, but I decided to go with a shell of pure white salt rubbed with ashed celery leaves. I want it to look like a baby stagman hatching from an icy snowball from hell."
Oh god.
Really cool, but also that imagery.
That
imagery, oh my god.
I mean, fair play.
I love how her brain works. I'll make sure I put an image in the notes as well, because I included one image in our chat which shows just the dish from the top down, and it does look like that. The black leaves, like on top of everything, look like an antlered creature. It's very cool.
Yeah.
That is true.
Right?
Very, very cool.
Yeah, once you've read it and then you look at it, you're like, I get it.
Yeah. And it looks yummy. I want some.
Yeah. Also on the table, you can see watermelon carpaccio with spiced feta cheese. Nice little extra.
Watermelon and feta cheese is a great combination, and people need to have it a lot more.
Yeah.
With olives as well.
I would definitely try it,
more.
but not with olives. Fuck olives.
Okay,
It wouldn't be a podcast episode without me having something contentious to do with food with Melissa. On that note, before we go to the questions, I was going to say something at the start of this episode, and I forgot to do it, so I'm going to do it now.
Do it.
This is a very special shout out for Melissa. Actually, I'm going to mention something I wasn't going to mention. One, she lost the poll, unfortunately.
You're all fake. You all don't know food. That's it.
But what I actually wanted to mention is just two things that listeners won't know, because they won't know the wonderful things that come out when we watch the episodes together. One is that whilst we were watching this episode for the first time, and Beverly gives Will the case file to look at the pictures of the missing people, before Will said fucking anything, Melissa immediately worked out that it was a colour palette. But also, when we watched the last episode of season 1, and actually no, it wasn't when we watched it, it was when we did the podcast, I was kind of provoking you both a little bit about things about like Abigail and how stuff would happen, and Melissa outright said something like Will was having an episode and Hannibal took advantage of it whilst he wasn't aware and stuffed the ear down his throat.
Yeah.
Which we have now confirmed from this episode is exactly what happened.
Like, I swear to Michael that I am not watching that. Like, it wouldn't be
I know
fun,
from
like,
hearing you that it's honest.
Melissa is our very own Will.
Yeah, Melissa is our Will Graham.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all of the mystery and puzzle games I've played in my whole life. Special mention to Nancy Drew and the Professor Layton series. That has made me the person who I am today. When I had nothing, I had puzzle games, and that has literally given me the break. I literally dropped out of uni out of the first year. I fobbed off my last couple of A-level exams. Games is what made me who I am, and some like detective shows for teenagers or whatever. And it's led to this moment, and it was all for this moment, and I am proud of myself. So
I need to get you a little medal or something. Literally, like, DB Mars has been catching up with our podcast, and it's so funny whenever I get messages from her just being like, oh, fuck, Melissa and Shaira are so smart. I didn't think any of this when I was watching it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I think it's also we're in this kind of unique sort of format. Yeah, exactly, where we're sort of looking a little bit extra. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I do sort of look extra when I'm watching these kind of things, because if there's something to figure out where your characters are figuring out, I want to know if I can figure it out. But I think where we're sort of watching it with a sort of thing of like, we are analysing it, we're then going to further talk about it. I think we are just paying a little bit more extra attention to it, but it is fun. It is fun that we figured it out.
We're looking at over keen eye.
Yeah, I love listening to you both comment on stuff, because also a lot of the time, if you do get something right, I can't say anything about it, or I can't say anything for a while, or some of the stuff I can't say anything at all for ages, and I just have to shut up, and it's really funny. It's so much fun for me. So let's get into the meat of our boys. Meat.
As long as it's not the Dr. Chilton's meat, thanks.
Look, I love him. Okay.
No,
leave it. Well, I won't say anything, but I do want to know if your opinions of Dr. Chilton changed throughout the series. They might not, but they might, at least in some regard. You'll see. You'll all see.
Right.
right.
So, my baby boy, given that Will knows he has been framed by Hannibal, why do you think he's so insistent on speaking to him?
He has no other resource, unfortunately. Like,
the
evidence is not against him. The evidence is against him. His memories aren't enough. The things that he could possibly tell people isn't enough. Anything that he can try to absolve himself with it is not enough. So the only kind of resource is to prod Hannibal into giving anything that is possible to give, and bring him closer into the fold, and keep him as close to the fold as possible, to to make. I know Hannibal's doing it to himself, as in he's heavily involved with the FBI, which eventually they'll probably figure out. Like I think we see in the first moments of the episode. But yeah, I think there's no other option. But also I feel like Will has a longing for Hannibal, at least the Hannibal he thought was the paddle.
I think that to even have any kind of memory, he needs to talk to Hannibal a little bit. I feel like, I mean, yes, there was something instigated with Alana, but I think that the more he remembers and sort of almost as a way as retracing his steps, going back to Hannibal to maybe try and trigger something. Also, I don't know if it was literally just Chilton had was listening to a conversation. Was it between Alana and Will?
Yeah.
I don't know if she was aware of that or if that was like on purpose, if she was mic'd up or whatever. Or to be fair, I don't know if that's just a thing that he does. Like it kind of gave off the vibe that neither Alana didn't know that was a thing, but maybe Will would figure this out or kind of know that this would happen. So then maybe there's a thing of Will wanting to bring him there to sort of have conversations to maybe try and have some sort of proof there within recording. I don't know. I'm very, very, very like heavily stretching here. But I think if he can get as much information from Hannibal as possible, whether he will be successful or not, because Hannibal is always 5 steps ahead of everyone else and he's just as intelligent as Will, I feel like. Having Will outsmart Hannibal or anyone outsmart Hannibal is a feat in itself, but I feel like if there's going to be anyone, it would be Will, but whether he'll actually do it or not, I don't know. But if he can get something out of him or have him say something and maybe have Will sort of with enough information for him to then go to someone else and say, check this, go here, do that, whatever, maybe there might be a slight chance that one day they might be able to get ahead of Hannibal. I feel like this is slightly leaning into what I want to happen. I feel like there might be a sort of thing of like back and forth between Hannibal and Will, where as Will's trying to gather up his own evidence, but whether Hannibal will pick up on that and sort of still stay ahead. Don't know. I feel like there's something that basically too long didn't listen. Will's cooking. Let him cook.
Let him cook. Yes.
I know. I would agree with both those points. Yeah.
And you're giving nothing, so I feel like one of us has touched on something.
Yeah. Agree. I'm not going to tell you anything.
Brilliant. Okay. Cool. Shaira, let's start a gay detective agency.
Yes.
I would endorse that wholeheartedly.
Heck yeah.
I would love to see the Melisa Shaira Gay Detective Agency.
I think that's a nice way to it.
On the flip side of that, kind of going by the same scene where they talk to each other, seeing as Hannibal did all of this to Will, why do you think that, actually, first of all, I want to read a little bit of the script detail because it's so good. When Will says that there will be a reckoning, the script says Hannibal smiles at this, nods, proud. So that's why I worded my question the way that I did, which is, why do you think that Hannibal is so proud of Will for wanting to exact revenge on him, his reckoning?
Quite.
And it's okay if you have no idea. Well,
clearly Hannibal wants Will to kind of join him in the kind of his headspace, because as I think he said something earlier about like molding Will to be similar to himself, and he sees Will as just as interesting as he is. So there's obviously a curiosity about it, and trying to hope when Will pushes forward with his revenge, it pushes him closer to being more like Hannibal. Whereas I feel like the opposite's going to happen, where Will is just going to be Will, and there's not going to be the fruition that Hannibal wants that will turn anything like him, or decide, you know what, maybe it's just good to kill and stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise I don't have any other thoughts. Maybe I think it's just that he's just proud of seeing these dark emotions at will, seeing dark emotions in Will because of the dark emotions that he regularly has.
I think he's just a fucked up individual, mate. I think he's just
equally valid.
I think he's just playing a bit of a wild goose chase. I think a lot of this show has a lot of symbolic motifs and meaning and everything. When it comes to this, I have no answer, so therefore I just think that Hannibal's just being a bit of a dick. I think he's like, oh yeah, I'm just having a little, I think I'm just having a little piss about, go on, try me. I think he really wants a challenge, if anything, I think he wants a challenge. And I think maybe Will is like the first person he's come across, or at least maybe come across in a long time, someone that kind of matches his sort of... What?
Yeah.
I said freak.
Yeah, matches his freak. Is the money gonna match my freak? Yeah. That's literally Hannibal is singing, is somebody gonna match my freak? And then then Will's like, yes, Danny. I just think he's just having fun with it. He's like, oh, he's someone that's a little bit smart, a little bit like quick with it. I'm also like that, but I'm the better person. I think his narcissism comes out and he's like, oh, but he's not as smart as me, but I would like the challenge. Like, fuck it, why not? Like, let's have a little like play about. Try me, go on. See what you could do. Like, oh yeah, I have all the faith in you. Like, you can do it. Go on. Like, it's almost like patronizing. I don't know. Like, I literally just think he's been a bit of a dickhead, and he's like, "Oh yeah, go on," taunting him. And I don't think there's much more to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, agreed. I think also similar. I go with my own point, but yeah, no, he definitely wants a challenge.
Yeah.
My opinion is really simple. Which I'll give. Fuck it. I'm like, should I? I could just shut up. No, I will. Hannibal likes Will. No matter what happens, no matter how horrible he is to him, he likes him a lot. And he sees something interesting in him. And when he sees this angry little man being like, you've done something horrible, I'm going to get fucking revenge on you. He's like, yeah, good for you. Like, no matter what, I'm really glad that you feel that way, because it shows how strong Will is. He's not giving up or cowering away in a cell. He's holding on and determined to prove himself. And even though proving himself is technically bad for Hannibal's most important interest is his obsession. So he's just like, yeah, good for you.
Good for you. I'm rooting for you, but also I'm not rooting for you.
Basically is. Like, he is rooting for Will. Because it proves his obsession right. Even if it's detrimental, I don't believe Hannibal would allow anything detrimental to happen to him, because at the end of the day, self-preservation is his number one. He is his number one. But the closest thing to that he's ever experienced, that is close to his own self-preservation, is how much he likes Will.
Yeah.
So, yeah, second to you can't do anything to me because I'm amazing is, but you want to, and I respect that. And that's very interesting. And he wants to, like we were talking about with his motives in season 1, he wants to see what'll happen. And it proves that Will is still playing the game that he set out for him, so he's still got someone to play with.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing.
Play with.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, isn't it? He's toying with Will. He's been doing it the whole time, and, like, it's horrible. But for Hannibal, that's a very exciting new thing.
Yeah.
Tiny new toy.
Basically. But, yeah. So, I want to know, what are your thoughts on Hannibal being, as Beverly put it, the new Will Graham?
No.
No.
There's only one.
Like, I'm sorry, mate. You can't be the new Will Graham. It
also feels weird.
It's strange.
And then immediately, he says that, and then immediately is doing it almost like a it's almost like a complete copy of when Will stepped into that role for the first time. All of a sudden you see Hannibal stepping into that role for the first time, and exactly like word for word, like putting the things together that they're not thinking about. Like Will did the exact same, like straight up just turned up and then was like, oh, well, it's this. Like he's doing the exact same thing. It's like mirroring the first time that Will was there. But there's just it just doesn't feel right because we're so used to it being Will. He doesn't slot into that role. So fuck off.
He also doesn't have Will's empathy. So you're right. I think it does mirror Will, but where Will comes at it from a point of empathy, Hannibal comes from it from a disconnected, narcissistic point of intelligence. He's using all of this ridiculous amount of information in his brain to deduce things, which is not how Will does it.
No.
So like it might have the same results, but it doesn't feel the same.
Nope.
Yeah.
It felt like, you know what, I said it earlier, it felt like his own kind of masturbation almost. It felt like him just kind of getting the euphoria of putting himself in Will as like he wants to be in Will, you know, Ayo.
Basically, I agree with you. Yeah. It is a bit masturbatory. Yeah, I completely agree. I suppose another way of putting it is, how do you feel about Hannibal putting himself so close to the FBI?
Clearly he's so up himself that he's like, they're not going to catch me. There's no way to catch me. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to stay close to the FBI, and they're still not going to find anything about me. So, you know.
I think he's doing it for his own gain, obviously, because as a criminal, there's only going to be gain on his part from this. But I think he's also peacocking a little bit. I think everything he does is just peacocking a bit.
Yeah.
With emphasis on the cock. He's just sort of like, I think it's almost like proving to himself, because who the fuck is he doing this for, really? Like, he's just sort of like proving to himself, like, oh, I can mess with the FBI and get this close and still not get caught. But who are you doing this for, mate? Who is this to? Who are you proving it to? Unless there's someone else in the mix that we don't know about yet, or we haven't figured out that he is actually someone. Maybe he is trying to impress Will and be like, look how amazing I am. Do you like me now? But then why? There are other ways, like get someone flowers or take him to a picnic. Don't be a serial killer and get really close to the FBI to show how you can't get caught. Do you know what I mean? There's different ways of showing affection.
It's interesting you bringing up Will specifically with that. Right. And I think, well, we'll see some... this is something I want to revisit with you a little bit later into the series, where we see Hannibal maybe do things for Will's attention that, kind of like everything with Hannibal, isn't necessarily the best idea and not a great way to get Will's attention. This is definitely one of them, and there's definitely more to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be interested to discuss that more later. And then, I wanted to ask you how you feel about Beverly seeking Will's help with the murder case whilst he's imprisoned. Because, you know, we've spoken a lot throughout season 1 about how, like, it can be bad for him. And now he's literally in, like, a psychiatric prison for the criminally insane. So how do you feel about her doing that?
It's interesting, yeah.
It's irresponsible, for one, but, like, you can't replace... even, like, subconsciously they know that they can't replace Will with anyone. So it kind of it shows the contrast from that previous scene of Hannibal going, oh, I put myself in Will's space, while clearly Beverly's like, you didn't give us enough information. There's just something that was missing that only Will would foresee within it.
I think it's still kind of... I think it almost proves that he's innocent in a way, in a very like bit of a reaching way, because before, you know, at this moment, everyone thinks that he was able to figure this out because he was, as Jack put it, he was describing as himself, or that he's the one that did it. So of course he knows all the information and can pin it to someone else. However, when he's literally locked up and he's not the one responsible for this, and he's still able to show the same wit and the same intelligence to sort of show that he's come to a solution that they really couldn't. They couldn't figure out what the correlation was between the way that this guy would pick all the people that he wanted for his weird fucked up art installation or whatever the goddamn it is. But he could, and I think she knew that deep down, and I think because she was so upset about what had come, because I think Beverly did really like him, and you could always tell they had like quite a nice chemistry, and it was really sweet, and she was just so different, and I think because she treated him like anyone else, and that's all he really wanted in a very stereotypical way, I think that's why they got on well, and that's why he always had time for her, and she could always see just his intelligence and everything just for what it is. So I think she almost went there to prove to herself that he is actually just smart, and maybe he is an innocent man. And I think the fact that he was still able to come up with something and figure it out correctly kind of proves that, because I think if he looked at it and was like, I have no idea, I don't know, there's nothing really coming to me, I feel like that would have maybe backed up the evidence of like he only knew everything because he was the one responsible for it. So I think it kind of actually proves to Beverly, which I think is what she was maybe looking for, but also just in general that kind of proves that he is actually just that clever.
Yeah, I definitely think that on at least some subconscious level, it's hard for Beverly because she's seen firsthand the evidence and has had to analyze it.
Yeah.
But she is one of the only people kind of more obviously subconsciously doesn't believe he could do that.
Yeah.
Because Beverly's one, kind of like Alana, one of the more intelligent people in the show.
Yes.
2 brain cells in the whole show.
Yep.
One for Alana, one for Beverly.
That's true. So, finally, I just wanted to talk about the killer. Because we haven't really. It does take a backseat because it's going to span over more than one episode, basically, instead of the normal procedural format that we've been used to. So do you have any thoughts on it? I did like a little ramble doing an outline of the killer, which I'll do quickly, but we all know what it is, which is that we've been used to a Killer of the Week format, but now it's different. And so far what we know is it's someone who's kidnapping people of different skin tones to complete a color palette. He's overdosing them with heroin, injecting their bodies with silicone, preserving their appearance, and then coating them in resin and assembling them stitched together in some sort of arrangement. We don't know who it is yet or why. Melisa made a remark at the end of our rewatch as to what the assembled arrangement looks like. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on this killer?
Sorry, I kind of already said it during our watch, but it felt so not I could say cringe, but it's not cringe. It felt so uncomfortable because it just gives me similar vibes to, because I'm brown skinned, so it felt so similar to random people going, "Oh, you're so exotic. You have such a caramel coffee skin color." It just gave me a little bit of shivers down the back. But yeah, I'm looking to seeing what he's like. But yeah, it's probably just an artist looking for a color palette, but it did not make me feel comfortable.
Yeah, you do kind of the fact that there's quite an attention on darker complexions. You would just assume it is a very like fucked up white individual just by default, wouldn't you? It's very, very close to very like just realistic, unfortunately, motif with it, isn't it? I think that's why it's so uncomfortable and so cringe, like you say, because it is. Yeah, I said that it looked the arrangement looked weirdly like an eye, which, like, do you get when you have fake eyeballs? Are they made of resin or are they like something else? I don't know. When you preserve
normally glass, I think, eyeballs.
Oh yeah, that would make more sense to put glass in your eye socket than resin, wouldn't it? But like, I remember in lockdown and everyone was getting into resin because you could make like so many cool different pieces of art where people would do like, and people still do it now, make a living where you have different things embedded within resin, and you can make like different layers and have things sort of like stacked up to make sort of one big sculpture. Maybe he's doing that. He's going to pour like a fuck ton of resin, like he's putting resin on them like individually now to keep them how they are, and then he'll put like a big load of resin and then he'll do like more stuff. So I was just thinking, is he just some weird fucked up artist that's going for, I don't know, realism in a whole nother level?
Building up his Etsy portfolio.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I think that mostly sums it up. Yeah, he's obviously some sort of artist, and like, I think you could probably argue that there's not, or that we don't know if there is a racist intention because he's doing an entire color palette.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, the objectification of skin color is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think innately anyway, by default, it is a racial thing anyway, regardless, because
regardless of intention.
It just is. It's just the nature of it is so fucking weird and so fucking creepy. Yeah. Even if it is like a whole color palette with all the skin tones, regardless, it's still a bit of a weird underlying racial fetish type thing, and it's gross. And they're all naked, so yeah, even worse.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it coming out on the next episode and seeing the motivations. But
yes, me too.
Quite deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
It's gross. In multiple ways, both the way he's doing it and also the result is also quite gross.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right, well, we're going to move on to, I still can't stop myself from saying it, the endingy bits.
I think endingy bits is a very profound way to say it.
It's in my brain and I can't get it
out.
I
think it should only be called the endingy bits.
I can't stop myself.
Don't put it down to anything else. Yeah.
Lovely ending of it. My weird brain. But yeah, we're going to change this format a little bit. So this is where we explain our favourite quotes, our favourite moments, and our next episode predictions. We're going to take turns, starting with Shaira, then going Melisa, then going me, and we're going to start off with favourite quotes.
Yeah. So, I had like 2 favourite quotes. Yes. So my first favourite quote is just, "I can't quite place this fish," and then Hannibal saying he was a flounder, just making it a bit of a chuckle because Hannibal jokes is always funny. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hannibal puns for the Cannibal family. And then I kind of just really like, it's in the same scene. I just kind of liked when they were talking about Will, and then it's like, we can't define a Will only by his maddest edges, and then we can't define Will at all. No, you can't. He's such an enigma, and I find him really cool in that sense. But yeah, simple quotes, and there wasn't many quotable areas, I don't think, for myself, regardless. But yeah, there was lots of scenes and talking points that I really like. But yeah.
Hell yeah.
Me. Okay. My favorite quote. My favorite quote is so almost irrelevant. It's not the meaning of the quote at all, and not the reason the quote happened, but it's just the quote made me think of something completely different, and that made me laugh. When Will says, "I just can't get you out of my head," I therefore thought of Kylie Minogue, gay anthem, gay boys.
Beautiful.
And that is literally the only reason why I liked that quote.
I think that's completely valid.
Thank you very much.
I also went for a simple quote. This episode isn't too heavy on the purple prose. Despite that, there are a lot of scenes I like. There's a lot of conversations I like, but I actually went for a really silly quote because I just think it's a very it's iconic. Which is Hannibal saying to Jack, "I never feel guilty about eating anything."
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just of course you don't, you wanker.
You cheeky fucker.
He is, he's a little cheeky sod. I love that line. Favourite moments.
Whoop. Right. So obviously have to mention the start of the season. With the whole kind of fight scene, but it wasn't even the fight choreography that was my favorite part. It was the moments leading up to that, and the reflections in the knives and things like that. I just liked the cinematography and kind of how they brought it forward, which was just one of really, really cool elements of it. And then I think I also similarly just like the parts with Will and what I would describe as his mind palace. Obviously, not to the extent as Sherlock Holmes, because apparently Sherlock Holmes is just.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
So both Will and Hannibal have eidetic memories like Sherlock, only in the Hannibal series it's called a memory palace. So you're absolutely right to say that. That is Will's equivalent of a memory palace.
Is it? Okay, so yeah, it's a mind palace. Okay, yeah, brilliant. See, I was going to mention this in the start of the during that during the podcast, but like it only just came up now. But yeah, no, it literally felt like his mind palace, and that's how he's recovering his memories. So he has a bit of a magic power, and this is another magic power. But yeah, I like the scenes within his mind palace, and the kind of the fishing scenes, and the scenes where we'll see oil people, and those are like there's multiple scenes. It's very difficult to point out. I think I like both of the scene with the stag and the Hannibal, the stag man during the table, which is really cool. And also there's a reason why I like that, because it's really cool, as in like the food and everything's really cool. But then obviously I like the oil part because of Uru. Uru thingy looks really cute. Yeah, oil Ilana looks cute. It looks hot. But yeah.
Alice, well done, Shaira.
Hell yeah! Yeah, no, well done for like putting that together.
Yeah. I put it together the other day when I was thinking about it, like, but I just forgot to mention it during the podcast, and I was like, oh yeah, shit, yeah, I did. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Go you. My favourite moment was a bit of a broad one, but just Ilana visiting Will, just that whole scene. Or it's sort of like a multiple bits of scenes put together in one moment, really. But yeah, just because after being left so lost at the end of season 1 and going into the first season of season 2, finally you kind of have a sort of sense of hope for justice for Will. Is basically the reason why I said I liked that moment, just because Ilana is really like, we kind of want to hold on to Alana's holding on to justice. In a way, and it's just so sort of like, I don't know, obviously we all know the truth, and we all know that Will is innocent, and it's the only kind of moment where I feel like personally like, oh my god, there is a chance for Will. Or just like a real chance of like something really developing, but then I don't know, we just see lots of things happen after that, so we're just sort of a bit lost. But I feel like, just a real sense of hope of justice for Will is what I put in my notes. So just a nice, happy time with two people that should probably bang, see what happens. And also free will.
Free will.
Hashtag free will.
Hashtag free will.
Tag us.
So my favourite moment is Hannibal's first conversation with Bedelia. I kind of like that entire scene because it reveals quite a lot about this episode and also this series, especially the first half of it in general. Obviously, I have a little bit of the upper hand on knowledge there. My favourite segment of conversation is Bedelia saying he's still influencing you. Will Graham asking to see you betrays his clear intent to manipulate you. And Hannibal says, and if I agree to see Will? And she responds, it betrays your clear intent to manipulate him. And then Hannibal says, I miss him. And I think that sums up what is happening and is going to happen between Hannibal and Will, which is dual manipulation.
I thought you were going to say something sexual then.
Is mutual masturbation. But also just fucking Hannibal looking all soft and saying, I miss him. My gay little heart can't handle it. So there's that as well.
My sinister stone heart was like, fuck off. Pretty sure I literally said fuck off when we were watching it.
He's telling the truth, okay?
Well, the consequences of my own actions.
Honestly, That reminds me, one thing I didn't mention, there's the scene in this episode where Hannibal is sitting alone in his office because Will isn't there, because who the fuck's fault is that, Hannibal?
Yeah, exactly.
And he's moping. In the script, it actually says there's better be like a close-up of the inside of his book showing Will's appointment time and makes it even more obvious that's what Hannibal's doing. So they toned it down a little bit in the episode, but yes, to confirm, that is 100% Hannibal moping because Will isn't there.
He's like a bloody child. He wants something. He makes something happen, and then he's sad he's not there. Well, you fucking put him in there, you silly sausage.
He's so silly. He's so silly. Sausage. Right, predictions.
Oh, this is a difficult one. I don't really have any predictions.
Or anything you'd like to see, as silly as it may be.
I want Jack to survive.
That's very fair.
Like, I don't want Jack to die. Don't make me fucking cry, Joe. I will punch you in the face. Don't make me cry. Do not dare make me cry. Yeah, I want Jack to survive. I want more revealings of the Hannibal cannibal family, maybe. But right now, I'm just worried for Jack's life. Just want the Jack to survive. I want Jack to win.
12 weeks to go.
Jack win. Wow. The season 3 could just be a flashback of unraveling Hannibal's life, and that's what Will does.
I'm so sorry, but I just had a mind blown moment because I'm such an idiot. I just said, well, we've got 12 weeks to wait, because in the show it says 12 weeks earlier.
Oh,
it is 12 weeks. There's 13 episodes. It is 12 weeks.
Oh my god. Whoa.
It is 12 weeks.
Whoa.
Sorry, I'm an idiot. Carry on.
Yeah. Maybe that's what the intention was for.
Maybe. Yeah, because it would have been weekly episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Smarty pants.
So
smarty pants.
I've watched it so many times.
Oh,
smarty pants. We see you, Brian Fuller. We see you. But yeah, I can't put my finger on it in season 2. Maybe I'm still hoping that Abigail is alive. Like, I still feel like I don't know why. I just feel like she's alive. Maybe it's just me with my naivety and really hoping that Abigail's alive.
It's okay to be naive.
But
you already know my thoughts.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway. I don't really have that much predictions. So I'll just stop it here.
So Shaira, we all watched the same clip where Jack had a shard of glass in his throat and it was all splurting out and everything.
Hilton got organs removed.
Yeah.
He's fine.
And he survived. Okay, like, I swear, if Dr. Chilton survives, but Jack doesn't, I'm gonna punch someone.
I feel like that's how the
Brian
show
Fuller
goes. Yeah, exactly. Brian.
Dear Hannibal, why would you do this to me?
Why are you doing this to Shaira?
Yeah.
You liked my tweet of the Cookie Monster with the gun.
He did.
Thanks
yeah. Yeah. He was the only one who supported you with calling it silky chicken instead of chicken soup.
Hey, look, that's a win in my book. I actually won the poll because Brian Fuller agrees with me. So
I do fully believe that Brian was Team Melissa.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I win. Who's the real winner now? Okay. Oh, prediction. It is a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because there's so much that we're presented with in such a big blowout of a first episode into the new season. There's so much that happens. And I think there's so many avenues as to what we could want or think to happen for the rest of the season. I'm holding out hope that we do find out what it is to do with Bedelia and Hannibal. Whether we find out in this season or the next one, God knows. But I would love, I think, at least a little bit more of a look into it, because we did kind of get almost like a bit of a glimpse of it this episode, I feel like, just to sort of maybe little bit of a nod of their dynamic, or at least in that moment. At the very, very least. What else? I also want Will to be released this season. I don't know if it happens, but I feel like there is the hope of what I was saying of, like, you know, that they somehow get ahead of Hannibal just in time to nab something, or some other kind of evidence probably comes out that clears Will, and Will gets out, and Hannibal's still fucking free to do what he wants.
Oh yeah, season 3
Anything
is all about chasing down Hannibal, and that's what Will and everyone is doing.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a, maybe not a devil's advocate, but like a little bit of a different approach to what I had last season. I'm gonna ship Alana and Will a little bit. Don't hate me.
How?
I just listen.
Dare you? I have told you that Will and Hannibal are canon, and this is how you treat me.
We're moving away from gay sex to
hey.
straight sex. Oh my god.
Hey, listen.
Can't
Nobody's in a relationship. Everybody is single.
This is true. As a
Pringles,
polyamorous
mingle,
person.
however they want. And also, even in relationships, you can go and do whatever you want. Should you be a poly person?
Yeah.
So just because two people are getting together doesn't mean other people can't get together.
Wait, are you going to change your regular prediction to straight sex?
Absolutely fucking not. They were still going to get gay sex.
God.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Gay-
that's fine.
gay
I
sex
accept
is
anything you say
still-
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, gay sex is still in the cards. Babes.
Phew. Thank you.
Yes. So gay sex rules all.
Thank God.
You know what? I ship Alana and Kat. Forgot their name now. Beverly. Yes. Why did I
You're
say
not
Kat?
the only one. They never interact, and the amount of fucking fan fiction of those two is obscene.
It's because it's all gay and everyone wants a bit of who doesn't want a bit of lesbian?
Exactly.
Remember,
Let's be real.
I did promise you lesbian in this series, remember?
Oh yeah.
I didn't tell you how you're going to get it, but I did promise.
My ears are open.
Anything could happen now.
Woo!
Whoop.
My prediction of next episode is Will is going to attempt to tunnel out of the BSHCI.
Oh please, yes.
That would actually be great.
That would be fun.
So I'm going to do my sign off now. And for this season, there will be less puns, probably none, because I'm very bad at them.
No,
I
you
love
can't be
your
bad
puns.
at a pun. A pun is inherently a little bit bad.
They take me so much effort. There might be puns. I'll try and do puns.
Yeah.
But I will be doing, in honor of the episode naming theme for this series, all of my sign-offs will be a haiku.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. Okay, I forgive you for the non-puns.
What a serve.
I will only write bad haikus, because that's the only kind I know.
And that's still valid. It's still a haiku.
Still a haiku, yeah.
My sign-off for this week is... One man will escape, but things don't end well for him. Oh well, guess shit sucks. Fate and Circumstance is an independent podcast brought to you by Felix Fanfaron Fern, Melisa Suzan, and Shaira Bambi. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at HannibalPod. We are fans of the show NBC's Hannibal and do not own the rights to any of the materials discussed, merely appreciators. The music used in this podcast is Tchaikovsky's Op No. 40 Waltz by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening. Well, that'll be kept in.